Hi everyone, we're going to make this Christmas tree garland today out of macrame yarn. You need brown and green yarn and beads. We're going to keep all of our knots on the left side. Usually you would alternate which side you start with so your knots alternate. We're going to keep all the knots on the same side. To prep your work, you're going to want to bead your garland first. So put all your beads on and then you can space them out. You can always slide things over as you go along. So we're going to start with our 12-inch brown yarn and our 64-inch green yarn. I ended up having a lot of extra yarn when I trimmed my tree at the end, but it's better to have more yarn in case you make your branches larger than mine. So start by laying your brown yarn on top of your short brown yarn on top of your garland yarn, and you're going to make a lark's head knot over that. And you can pull it as tight as you can. It won't be perfectly tight because you're doing on yarn, but as tight as you want. I usually put the skeins of yarn on either side of my work to help hold it a little bit tight. You can also use painter's tape to hold it down. I just don't like pulling that off of my yarn, so I just use the skeins of yarn that I'm using. Now you're going to fold your green yarn in half. So this is your 64-inch green yarn, fold it in half, find the middle, and you're going to place that underneath your tree trunk, so your 12-inch brown yarn. Now we're going to do a bunch of square knots for this tree. So you're going to start with your left side, and it's going to go over the brown, and then under your other side of your green. And your right side of your green will then go under your brown and through the figure 4 that you just made. Now this is just the first half of your square knot. So for the square knot, you need to make this twice. But the next step, you will start with the right side of the yarn and move that to the left. So now I'll grab my right yarn and I will cross it over the brown to make that figure 4 shape. So over the brown yarn and under my left green yarn. And then my left green yarn will go under the brown and through the hole that I just made. And then pull that tight. And that is your first square knot. A lot of macrame projects you will alternate if you start with your left or right, but for these trees we want all of our knots to always start on the left. So we'll make a figure 4 with our left green yarn again, and it will go over the brown and then under our right strand of green. The right strand of green will go under brown and through our figure 4. Now we're not going to pull it all the way tight because you want these small loops for your tree. Now we're going to make the figure 4 from the left side. So the left side goes over the brown, under the green, and your left green goes under the brown and through the hole. And this time you'll finish off this square knot by pulling it tight. So you always want to start with your left, moving towards the right, and after you do the first half of your square knot, then you will start at the right and move to the left, and that would make one square knot. So now we're moving on to our third square knot. So the left yarn goes over the brown, under the green, the right green goes under the brown and through our hole. This time our loops for our pine tree branches are going to stay a little bit bigger. So we started on the left, now we're going to start on the right to finish off our square knot. And you can pull that tight. You can pull on your branches a little bit if you need to adjust them, bigger or smaller. Now starting on the left, moving to the right. As you go down the tree, you'll want your loops or your branches to get a little bit bigger each time. You can decide how gradual or how steep you want your branches to look. So as you go down, just make your loops slightly bigger. You can tug on those loops a little bit. There's a lot of playroom right here. And if you get down to the bottom and you decide that it's too big, then just go back and tighten them up a little bit. You're going to make a total of 7 branches. You can do more or less. This is just what I fit on my branch, and this is the size that I liked. So we're on branch number 4, and you can see my branches are getting slightly longer. And I will adjust them, make them a little bit tighter, bring them in. I don't want my branches to be too wide because the bottom of the Christmas tree will get wide and sometimes it can get droopy. So I like mine a little bit more straight. Again, all of our square knots will start on the left side, and your square knot will consist of 2 parts. So left over right, right over left, if you remember a square knot from back in Girl Scout days. So I'm going to do a total of 7 branches. I did not include the very first square knot when you don't leave any branches out. I did not include that in my count. So I left 7 actual branches out. So technically you will be doing 8 square knots. So that was number 6. And again, the left green yarn will go over the brown, under the green, and your right green yarn will go under the brown and through your loop. Now I'm going to adjust these to be a little bit bigger. So we did left over right, and then we start with the right side, and we go right over left to finish our square knot. And find the length that you want before you pull the square knot tight to set it. You can use your other fingers to hold the branches still while you tighten. So we have 7 branches. Now all you have to do is trim your ends. I like leaving a little bit at the end. It's up to you how you want to do. If you cut too close to your square knot, it will slip out. But if you don't like the ends hanging off like mine are, you can hot glue them to the back if you'd like. Now that you've completed 1 tree, you'll do that 7 more times. You can do more or less. I just felt like 7 fit my mantle well. So now I'll trim my trunks to match. I like to trim my trunks after I've made all 7, just to make sure that they all are the same length. You can push your square knots up to where they are closer together if you'd like. I like mine a little bit more spaced out so you can see the loops a little bit better, but that's all just personal preference. So here you can see my completed 3 trees, and they turned out well. They're very easy. All it is square knots. And the best part is you can take apart your square knots and redo them as many times as you'd like until you figure it out and have it perfect. Thanks for watching.